Hi guys. Today we're going to talk about sketching and describing quadratics, and this is going to be our part 3. So we're going to kind of pull this together, so now after this we'll be able to write a very good description from any equation of what's going on with the quadratic, as well as be able to sketch anything we want after this. We should have a pretty good idea of this. Now you'll see I am using a regular organizer, which is great. And in the middle, I've had Sketch and Describe Quadratics Part 3, which is kind of where our focus is going to be. And you'll notice there's no big ideas in this one. I completely have 5 different equations as I work around. So again, don't be worried as you're doing this that you need to have some specific graph paper or something like that. You won't have to worry about that. It's only sketching. And again, directions for all of these are sketch and describe. So I'm not going to write the same directions 5 times. I'm just going to have us know we're going to do that with all of them. Okay, so let's start with A. Now, you'll notice on all of A, B, C, and D, I did y equals with those. And then for D, I did f of x just to throw something different in there. But remember, we said f of x, like a function name, and y are kind of interchangeable if you need to think about it that way. So first of all, I have y equals negative the quantity of x plus 2 squared. So let's go inside here first. So this is a shift on the x-axis, and remember it's opposite. So if it's plus a number, that means it's going to go to the left 2. Now here's what's going to be different, I think, about all of these is this number out in front. So there's no number there. So even though there's a negative, there's no number. So we have to assume it's 1. So it's negative 1 in the front. So that means that it opens down. It's not so important that it's 1. But if it's a negative number at all, it's going to open down. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and get my stuff ready to sketch. So if I move to the left 2, that would be over to where negative 2 is. And that's the only movement that happens. So that's my vertex. And it opens down. Okay, so the ones today that I'm going to focus on, actually every single one of them is one that opens down because it's going to have a negative number. And we haven't seen too many of those yet, so I want to make sure you're good with that. Okay, I'm going to turn this. Here is my next one. Y equals negative x squared plus 7. So if I'm going to look at starting to figure out what's happening here, that plus 7 that's on the end means it's going to go up 7. There's no number in a parentheses with the x, so it doesn't shift left or right. But if you notice there's a negative out here, so I would assume that's a negative 1. That means it's going to open down. So now we're going to get our x and y set up. If it goes up 7, that would be positive 7 up here. That's the only move that happens. So that's going to be my vertex point. And it opens down. Okay, now turn it to the next one here. Here's one where you're going to see 2 movements happen because there's something in the parentheses and something on the end. So I have y equals negative the quantity of x minus 2 squared plus 4. So this part's probably the easiest. If it's plus, that means it goes up. So it goes up 4. Okay, now if it's minus with the x inside, that means it's going to go to the right. So right 2. In the front, there's a negative, which I assume there's a 1 with. So -1 here means that it opens down. So I have X and Y here. Okay, easiest one usually is to start with the part on the end. So up 4 would go to +4. If it goes to the right 2, it's going to be over here. So the vertex is where those meet. And it opens down. So from there, it looks like this. Now do make sure this shape again should be a U shape, not a V. So keep that in mind. So now I changed my naming to f of x. So f of x equals -x² minus 2. So let's do this part on the end because that's the easiest. That's going to go down 2. Now in front of the x² there's a negative. I assume there's a 1 there. So that's another piece that you can tell that it opens down. So I'm going to get ready for my labeling. If it goes down 2, there's -2 down here. And that's the only movement that happens. So that's where my vertex is going to go. Oops. All of a sudden it made a line. And it's going to open down. Okay, one more, and then we're going to take a look at kind of a different approach in the back here. So now I have y equals negative the quantity of x plus 5 squared plus 4. So again, here's our easiest part to start with. It goes up 4. If I go inside, that's plus 5. So that means it's going to go to the left 5. Out here, I assume there's a -1 there, and that's going to opens down. Okay, now we're going to go through and start to get our sketches. So if it goes up 4, that'd be a +4. If it goes to the left 5, that 5 would have to be -5. So where those two come together is going to be my vertex point. And then it opens down. Okay, now in the back, we're going to make a little bit of a change. We're going to do kind of what we did the last time. I'm going to give you a sketch, and then you're going to work backwards and tell me the equation that it came from. So we're going to write an equation for each of these. Now, again, don't be worried that, stop the video, sketch what you have. Make sure when you sketch, you put the numbers on here. Make sure you label the X and Y axis. Label everything you can to kind of help yourself when it comes to being able to tell what's going on here. So I'm going to go to my first one again. These are write an equation for each sketch. So the directions are the same for all of them. Okay, so I'm going to do y equals like I did the last time. But remember, we could make it f of x if we wanted. So let's start with the shift on the y-axis because that one gets to get written the way it is. So if it's +4, that means in the end it's going to be +4. Now, because I can tell there's a shift on the x, I know there's got to be an x in parentheses. And if it's positive 7 in here, I got to think of the opposite. So negative 7. So I'm going to write minus 7. So it could be this, or I could write it as a function and write it as that. Okay, let's keep going here. Okay, so on this one, I can tell there are two shifts that happen. One that goes up 5. Oops. Can I back up for 1 minute? I forgot something on the last one. On the last one, we talked about that it opened down, right? We could tell that. So don't forget your negative in front of there. So that negative tells you, actually, let me move this over a little bit. That negative tells you it's going to open down. My bad. I should have added to that. So make sure the negative's out there. Don't have to put a 1 with it, but you do have to make sure the negative's out there. Okay, my bad. Now we're on the right track here. So on this one, I can tell that there is a shift up 5 and to the left 6 spaces to negative 6, and it opens down. So if I start, let's do the shift on the y-axis first. So if it goes up 5, that's plus 5. So this gets written exactly the way it is. Positive is plus. If it were down here, negative, it'd be minus. Now, because there's a shift on the x as well, I have an x inside the parentheses with a squared on the outside. Now remember, it's always opposite. So if this goes to negative 6, inside of here I think of opposite. So it should be positive 6. Okay, let me give myself just a little more room here. And it opens down, so I'm going to put a negative out there. So it could be this. Or it could be this. Either one of those would be okay. Okay, here's my next one. Now again, I can see two shifts, down 2 and to the left 3. So the down 2 is usually the one that, or the one that's on the y-axis is always easier. So that negative 2 is going to become minus 2 in the end. Set up my parentheses, x inside. It's always the opposite of whatever the shift is. So if this is negative 3, then in here I think positive 3. So I'm going to write plus 3. And because it opens down, I'm going to put a negative in the front. So again, it could be this. Or it could be this. Okay, 2 more here. Okay, so I got my setup here. I can see 2 shifts. It goes up 8 and it goes to the left 5. So this is always the easier one. That's positive 8. So I'm going to write plus 8 on the end. Since there's a shift on the x-axis, I know it's got to have those parentheses with x inside and the squared on the outside. And if it goes to negative 5, in here I do opposite. So positive 5. And I made the negative on the outside because it opens down. So remember, it could be this. Or it could be this. Okay, last one, guys. So I can see in this one I have 2 shifts, down 2, and to the right 7. So the down 2 is usually the easier one. So when I start, that means there's going to be a minus 2 on the end. Because I see a shift on the x-axis, I know I've got this set up. That's positive 7, it's the opposite in here. So negative 7 makes me think minus 7. And because it opens down, I'm going to put a negative in the front. So it could be that. Or it could be this. Okay, now you've got 3 videos of this, so make sure you go over these. And make sure you're good with the discussion and how to be able to describe them and sketch them.